everybody. Welcome to another chapter of the Book of Sean. It is good to see you. Happy today, whatever day it is you're watching. Listen, we have a great show planned for you. I'm going to do some headlines. I got some best things I've seen all week. We're going to do some Ask Dr. Sean. It's going to be an amazing show. The stuff I'm going to cover today is going to make your big toe shoot up in your boot. We're going to have some fun tonight, so you settle in, get comfortable, and let's take this ride together, everybody. Let's do some headlines. So did you guys hear, I guess it was over the weekend, no, not over the weekend, maybe a couple of days ago, that, Blackberry is no more. The company that put out the Blackberry phone is no longer producing whatever parts, whatever services that are required to make the phone function. Blackberry is over. And some of y'all are too young. This one over here, 2-3. Oh, maybe not. He said he had one. So some of y'all who are watching, not here, are too young to know anything about Blackberry because, you was born, you came of age when there was only iPhones and Samsungs and all of that. But Blackberry was the phone that people, who was, movers and shakers and influencers, they had Blackberries. Everybody else had flip phones. I had a Blackberry, people. Because, it was like a status symbol. You could get, like, emails, right? You could get, what is it? Blackberry Messenger. I didn't have that. But it's like a text, right? You could do all that with a Blackberry. And now Blackberry is gone. Steve Jobs came along, and he ended all that. He basically invented the smartphone, and that took us to a whole nother level. Someone told me that Steve Jobs and the smartphone changed the world. And I thought to myself, not so much. The smartphone made it easier for us to get porn. and it made it easier for people to be nasty to people. But I'm not so sure if easy and change are the same thing. You know what I'm saying? Allowing people to communicate more easily will only change the world if what you're communicating about has the power to change the world. And what I've seen so far about what we do with these phones, no, that's not true. Hey, listen. BlackBerry's gone, but here's what you should realize. The iPhone's going to be gone one day, too. I know. I just shocked and amazed you. And so will your Samsung, and so will your Instagram, and your TikTok, and prayerfully Facebook. All of that, everything changes, people. Nothing stays the same. There was a time when you could not have imagined BlackBerry not being around. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody had one, everybody wanted one. And the same thing's going to happen with all the things that you love. All the things that you love will have to give way to new and better versions of themselves because everything changes. And that's why I wanted to remind you that BlackBerry's going away so that you would put in your consciousness that everything changes. Nothing stays the same, people. Nothing. Marriages change, relationships change, people change, friendship change, your mind will change. You know what I'm saying? Everything is undergoing the necessary augmentations of existence in nature. Nothing about you stays the same. And if you are committed to something that's on its way out, then guess what you're doing? You on your way out with that. My advice to everybody, because I give advice on this show, so my advice to everybody watching is to never be so committed to something that you can't receive something else. That's good. Never be so fundamentally devoted to something that you can't receive something better coming along. Yeah, don't be the oak tree, be the willow. You know the difference, right? The oak tree stands in the storm and it goes up against the wind, and the oak tree says, I'm going to stand here and I'm not moving. But the willow, it leans, it rocks, it moves with the wind. So while the oak tree is breaking, the willow is surviving because it knows how to bend and change. I need you to understand that change is going to hit your life. 2022 is going to be a year of change for you in some area. In some way, you're going to experience some serious and sublime change. Your marriage, your relationship, your mind, your weight, whatever, your job, where you work, how you do it, you're going to go through change. But I need you not to resent the change that happens because change is life's greatest compliment. You see, when change happens, it's life's way of saying that you've mastered that. And you're not going to get anything else out of that if you keep doing that. Change is life's way of saying you're ready for more. And imagine if the world had said, no, all we want are our Blackberries. We wouldn't have the iPhone, people. Because when life is ready to give you more, life will make you change. Yeah. So, when the change happens in 2022, don't get mad, don't resent it, don't be all evil about it. Just take it as a compliment and keep it moving. Speaking of keep it moving, let's do another headline. I found out the other day, I was watching whatever network I was watching, and they reported that 4 million people left their jobs in November. Did you hear about this? I'm sure you did. That's a lot of people. 4 million people left their jobs, and they weren't fired. You know what I'm saying? They just moved on. They just decided that they wanted to move on and do something else. It would be one thing if 4 million people got fired, right? But 4 million people decided, man, I don't want to work here anymore. And they picked up their little white box. Well, I guess they're not a little white box because they're all at home, right? But they just decided, they sent an email, text, however they did it, went on Zoom. Did you hear about the guy that fired thousands of people on Zoom? He's going to hell. That's a whole other headline. I'm not doing that today. 4 million people left their jobs. And I think what happened is that during the pandemic made people ask themselves some very serious questions. Because let me just tell you, nothing can focus your mind like death and sickness. Pain can focus you. Pain will give you a focus that other parts of life will never give you. And 4 million people decided to ask themselves some very serious questions. They decided to ask themselves this question: do I really want to do this? They decided to ask themselves, what am I getting out of this? Huh? 4 million people decided to ask themselves, what am I supposed to be doing with my life? And somewhere along the way, they decided that what they were doing was not sufficient to what they wanted to do, and they walked away from their job. 4 million people did it. But these are all the questions that we should have been asking long before the pandemic and long before November. Every human being should have been, we all should be asking ourselves important questions. Like, what am I supposed to be doing? Is this what I was born to do? What am I getting out of this? You should ask yourself that question every single day of your life. Every chance that you move from one day or one stage to the next, that ought to be the fundamental question. At some point, every life has to have a serious conversation with itself about what it's doing and whether or not what it's doing happens to be fulfilling it. Because life is short, beloved. You hear me? Life is short and life is fragile. You will blink and be 30. You'll blink twice and be 50. You'll blink 3 times and you'll be in a nursing home. Don't blink 2, 3. I'm just saying. That's how quick life moves. And life is too short and too fragile for you to be wasting time. And that's why I like this story. I don't know what these 4 million people are doing with their newfound time for leisure and work. But life is too short to be wasting time doing things that don't matter, trying to impress people who don't really care. You know what I'm saying? You got some fundamental things you should be doing. And there's nothing wrong, by the way, with working at a job that you don't love, as long as while you work there, you're building on the life you can love. You know what I'm saying? Some jobs are just a means to an end, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not telling you to get up and run and quit your job and be homeless and hungry, because you ain't coming to live with me. You know what I'm saying? You can't come in. Devon King, you can't move in, so keep your job. Keep your job, Devon. You know what I'm saying? No. Devon is in the control. No. But what I am saying is that even as you work, whatever job that you have to keep a roof over your head and food on your plate, that you're constantly asking yourself those very serious questions about whether or not you are fulfilling your life and your function in other ways. What are you doing with your life? Are you doing what you really want to be doing at this stage of your existence? What's your vision? Can you answer that question? What is your vision? And what was the original vision? What was the vision that motivated you and moved you and pushed you out into the middle of life and made you want to run, walk, fight, build, give, sacrifice, and grow? Again, I don't know what these 4 million people are doing with their time, but here's what I do know. I know that at least they decided to chase some modicum of joy. They decided to go after some level of fulfillment. Because what good is a job if you ain't got no joy? What good is a house if there's no love in it? What good is being married to somebody if there ain't no affection and no kindness in it? 4 million people decided it wasn't good enough just to have a job. It's better to have the right job for you. But you can't figure out what the right job is for you until you know some things more profoundly about yourself. So I'm going to ask you again before I move on. What are you doing with your life? Is it really what you want to be doing? What's the vision? What's the original vision? Huh? Those are the questions you need to be asking yourself and answering for yourself, and not who's dating who and who's having a baby with who and who cheated on who, because ain't none of that going to help you. It ain't even helping them. Let's move on. So, you guys hear that Pope Francis said something really interesting lately. I forget where he was, but that's him. Pope Francis said, he looks kind of sleepy there, but Pope Francis said, check this out. He said that couples who decide to have pets instead of children are being morally selfish. Now, I like Pope Francis most of the time, but I don't agree with that, Pope, sir. Your Holiness, you lost me. You lost me right there. I was with you, and then you lost me. Couples who decide to have pets and not children are morally selfish? No. You know, the social pressure to get married and to have children or to be a certain way, I'm glad the days for that are over. You know what I'm saying? I'm glad the days where you could just be pressured into doing something because everybody else is doing it and you felt out of step, out of whack, out of place because you didn't participate. I'm glad people are just ruggedly individualistic. Let me add that to it to make it agreeable. Verbs, nouns. No. Pope Francis is wrong about that. Nobody should feel pressured to have children if that's not what you want to do. You know what I'm saying? The same way nobody should feel pressured to be married or feel pressured to be in a relationship if that's not what you want to do. Can you imagine how horrible of a parent you would be or a spouse you would be or a boyfriend, girlfriend you would be if you were doing something because you felt you had to do it? Your heart ain't going to be in that. And if your heart ain't in it, ain't no greatness coming out of it. Ain't no goodness flowing through it. Ain't no joy going to be found in it nowhere. You should do those things didn't I just tell you this would work? You should do those things that you really want to do. If you don't want to have kids, I don't care what the Pope says or what Bishop Pigfeet and Reverend Porkchop or whoever else, Aunt Biscuit and Uncle Graham, I don't care who they are. You need to decide for yourself what's good for you. I like the Pope, but he's wrong. For example, Oprah Winfrey is not married, and she does not have children, biological children, and nobody would say that Oprah is selfish. I don't know anybody, maybe just Monique, but other than her, nobody else would say that Oprah is selfish. She doesn't present herself in the world like that. Huh? I'm glad I didn't grow up in 1952. I didn't come of age in 1960 something. I'm glad I'm living right now. This is the time that I want to live in because I need to live in a time where I get to decide what I want to do with my life. And nobody gets to tell me what to do with the content of my days or the reach of my destiny. Nobody gets to shame me or make me feel bad about the fact that I didn't do this or did do that. No. If you don't want kids, don't have kids, people. You don't want to be in a monogamous marriage, you don't be married, and that's not your thing, then don't do it. You feel me? Because I'd rather you not be married than to ruin somebody's daughter. I'd rather you not be married than to mess up somebody's son. I'm glad I live in a time where you don't really have to explain your way, your walk, your life to other people. Not only because they don't matter, but because you don't have to waste time trying to get people to care about it as long as you do. And then let me add this before I take this break. Because the Pope, I like the Pope, but what the hell is he talking about? Just because you're married does not mean you should be a parent. You understand what I'm saying? Just because you're in a relationship doesn't mean you should have kids. Some married people should have only had pets. For example, would anybody have been mad if Jeffrey Dahmer's parent had not had kids? Would anybody, no, we ought to have been like, fewer people would have been eaten if they had decided, you know what, we shouldn't have no kids because all we gonna do is raise a serial killer. Not everybody, I get it, not everybody should be married. Not everybody should be married, because listen, at the end of the day, not everybody should have kids either. We already have enough dysfunctional people running around angry and mad at the world because somebody didn't love them when they deserved to be loved. Not to mention the fact that having a child does not make you special any more than buying a wedding dress and having a wedding makes you a wife. You think about that over the break. When I come back, I got some more headlines for you. Welcome back, everybody. So you guys heard of Deshaun Presley? Do you know him? You ever heard his name? You know who he is? You should know who he is because some people stand out. And they stand out not because they're singing and dancing or playing basketball or in politics, but they stand out because they express a level of courage and bravery and decency that deserves to be highlighted. And that is the legacy of Deshaun Presley. So on December 5th, Deshaun was at a Kroger's in Ohio, and he saw a man snatch the purse of an 82-year-old woman. And that's Deshaun, and that's the 82-year-old woman. Although, keep that picture up there, she does not look 82 to me. I'm just saying. If that's what 82 looks like, I want to know what she's eating because she looks good. Anyway, so somebody snatched that woman's purse, and the woman's name is Pat Goins. And Deshaun saw the robbery, and he chased down the person who stole the purse, and he tackled them, down in the parking lot and got the woman's purse back. Now, a lot of people saw what happened in that parking lot, but Deshaun was the only one, in part because his name is Sean, by the way. You know what I'm saying? That's probably where the virtue comes from. But anyway, he was the only one who did something about it. He tackled the man in the parking lot and got the purse back. And apparently, he's the kind of person that I want to be. Because, let me be clear about this. I'm not the person to chase somebody in the parking lot. I'm the person who's going to call the police. I might follow. I would have followed them in my car. That's what I would have done. And then called the police. But Deshaun is the kind of guy I want to be in this sense. When he saw something wrong, he righted it. When he saw somebody being taken advantage of, he stopped it. When he saw evil flourishing, he stood in the way. And that's always the kind of person that I want to be. In fact, that's the kind of person you should want to be. If you see oppression, stop it. If you see wrong, right it. If you see pain, heal it. Don't participate in it. Because I am a firm believer, and I know it from my own life, and you bear witness with yours as well, that evil flourishes rather when good people say nothing. When we do nothing, that's when evil flourishes. Sean is the kind of guy that decided, you know what? I ain't going to let that happen. You guys remember the genocide in Rwanda? Remember that? Where millions of Africans killed millions of Africans? African people killing African people, and the world stood by and let millions of people die in Rwanda because the world didn't give a damn that black folks was killing black folks. They didn't care. And so we had a whole genocide happen in the country because so-called good people stood by and just let it happen. But it could have been stopped. That genocide did not need to happen if people would have stepped in and decided, this is not going to happen on our watch. And let's not talk about the world. Let's talk about your life. Because there are people in your life who are being treated some kind of way by other people in your life, and they keep being treated that way because you won't say nothing. You see the behavior, you hear the language, but you won't stop it. You just let it go on and on and on and on. And at some point, we got to step up and be like Deshaun and say, you know what, that's enough. You can't talk to my sister this way. You can't talk to each other this way. So at some point, good people have to stand up and just draw a line in the sand and say, hey, this has gone too far. You see, when you have people in your life who are being disrespected, who are being cheated on, stabbed in the back, undermined by other people who are also in your life, you have a moral obligation to say something. Now, you may not be able to change what's going on, but at least you go on record having opened your mouth. And you stand on the side of virtue and truth, and not on the side of darkness and recrimination because you decided that you would be like Deshaun. You ain't gonna steal no 82-year-old woman's purse and get away with it when I'm around. Let me tell you something. Domestic violence against women will never stop as long as women are the only people who care about it. It's men confronting other men that will stop domestic violence. So, how about we do today's moral question? Here's today's moral question. It comes from Deshaun and Pat Goins. Here it is. And after I give you the question, I want you to tell me what you would do in the chat. So write it in the chat. Give me all your logic, all your reason. But tell me what you would do. Here's the moral question. If you saw someone robbing an elderly woman in the parking lot, what would you do? how would you handle it? Would you chase after them? Would you get involved? Or would you just let it go? That's what I want to know. That's today's moral question. So today's moral question is all about what would you do if you saw someone robbing an elderly woman in the parking lot? Would you get involved? And I don't care what that means, because like I would have called the police. Deshaun would have chased after somebody. 2-3 would have ran him over with his car. There's a whole lot of options. A lot of options. But what would you do? Tell me in the chat. I can't wait to hear what you guys think about this moral question, because it's a moral question. A lot of people just want to mind their business, and then, you know, the robber lives to rob another day. So let me know what you think. Let me do my last headline before I take this break. So apparently, you guys know, here's a fun fact about me. I love basketball, right? I love basketball, but I also love tennis. Did you know that about me? You knew that? I told you about it. Okay. Oh, okay, good. So I'm a big tennis guy. I love tennis, and I'm a Roger Federer guy. All right. So I was watching the news yesterday, and I heard that Novak Djokovic, him right there, who won the Australian Open 5 or 6 times. He's going for his 21st Grand Slam title. He was all set to play in the Australian Open, which is about to start, I guess, in a few days or weeks. And he ran into a little problem called the Australian government. Apparently, the great tennis champion, Novak Djokovic, had some sort of medical exemption. Now, I don't know what the hell that is, by the way. He has some sort of medical exemption to play in Australia, despite the fact that to get in Australia, everybody has to be vaccinated. You can't do the Aaron Rodgers. You got to be vaccinated, okay, and have proof of vaccination. But he was under the impression he got some sort of exemption to play in the Australian Open. And if you don't know anything about Novak Djokovic, let me help you out. Novak is the Kyrie Irving of tennis, okay? You know how Kyrie thinks he knows every damn thing, smarter than everybody, rules don't apply to him? That's Novak Djokovic. Let me prove it. In the middle of the pandemic, when the pandemic was at its height, Novak Djokovic sponsored a tennis tournament in his home country where there was thousands of people present, hundreds of people present at least. Nobody was wearing masks, and a bunch of tennis players got sick, a bunch of fans got sick, and he himself got COVID as well. Okay? He's been very conspiratorial kind of guy about COVID and the vaccine. You know, he does his research on Google. You know what I'm saying? He does his, here's a tennis player. He's a tennis player doing research like he's an immunologist. And he just decided that he was going to go to Australia because he had a medical exemption, and he was going to play in the tournament in spite of the fact that everybody in Australia, to get in Australia, you have to be vaccinated. And to move around in Australia, most of the Australians themselves are vaccinated. They can't even get in. So he thought because he was Novak, them rules didn't apply to him. But what he didn't realize is that Omicron don't care how many vitamins you take. Omicron don't care if you drink orange juice every day. That ain't how it works. Viruses don't care about that stuff. It's called a virus, people. Okay? And Novak found out the hard way that the rules apply to even him. He does not get to skirt the rules. It's amazing to me how Europeans never seem to think that the rules apply to them too. The same way they apply to everybody else on the planet, they apply to the Europeans too. And Novak was under the impression that, no, you know, I got a medical exemption. So shout out to the Australian government, because the Australian government, check this out, asked Novak to leave. They put his ass out the country. And he done won the Australian Open like 5 or 6 times, but they didn't care. They put him out of the country. You take your tail back home. Huh? Here's the wisdom. You ready for it? There are too many people in your life and in mine who simply believe that the rules don't apply to them, that they are exempt from the laws of nature and of nature's God. You know, it's different when I'm doing it. Lying is lying. Lying is a lie when I tell it, and it's a lie when you tell it too. You know what I'm saying? Stealing is stealing. It ain't different because it's you. What's wrong with people? There are too many people walking around right now who think that they are immutable, infallible, and omniscient. They think they know everything. And that because they know everything, none of the rules apply to them. The reality is you can't do whatever you want. You simply cannot do whatever you want. You just can't do it. Especially what you want to do is hurting other people. And that's what Novak found out the hard way on his flight back to, I think, was he Serbian? On his flight back to Serbia. He found out the hard way. Okay? You can't do whatever you want, especially if what you want to do is going to hurt other people and put other lives at risk. Go home, Novak. And that's what you ought to say to some people in your life who want to come in your life and do whatever the hell they want to do, whenever they want to do it. You need to tell them, you got to go somewhere else. You can have all this freedom and all this stuff. Have it at your house. But in my house, we play by my rules. Anyway, Novak should really spend some time studying African culture, because in African culture, what matters is the health of the village and not just the freedom of the individual. And maybe more Europeans should really think more about African culture, because I don't know what's going on with Europe. Y'all need to pull it together. Let me do one more before I take this break. So, I have a new hero, people. I have a new hero, Kane Tanaka. Kane Tanaka is the oldest living person in the world, and just a few days ago on Sunday, she turned 119 years old. Look at her. She is 119 years old. Kane Tanaka. She's my new hero. We live in a culture that celebrates being young. And especially in America, we live in a country that celebrates everybody being young. If you're young, you're wonderful and you're great. And a part of why America celebrates young people only is because America don't want anybody around who remembers what really happened. So if all the people with the institutional memory are gone, then of course, America can reinvent itself once every 10 years and not have to address what really happened. My aunt, I don't know if you know, my Aunt May lived to be 106 years old. So my Aunt May was born in 1911, and she lived to be 106 years old. She saw every major war after the Civil War. The Depression, segregation, lynching, Civil Rights Movement, Black Lives Matter, Barack Obama. She saw every president from William Howard Taft to Donald Trump. She died when Donald Trump was in office. She was like, you know what, that's too much. She's like, I'm out. I've seen enough. She's like, I'm out of here. But what an amazing life, right? I mean, from 1911 to 2016, 106 years. Here's the point I'm making. I'm going to take this break. Y'all chill out in the control room. Everybody needs somebody who's older than them to talk you through some things. Now, older people ain't going to agree with everything that you do, and you don't have to agree with everything that they say. But you ought to have somebody who has been in this experience before, and they can give you wisdom, because Google can give you knowledge, information, but it cannot give you wisdom. Wisdom is born of experience. And you need some people who know what it is to have turned this corner a few times, and they can tell you it's going to be all right. And before I take this break, let me tell you a little story. There was a man that fell in the hole. He fell in the hole. He was down in the hole, and the hole was deep. While he was in the hole, a lawyer walks by the hole and says that to the man in the hole. When you get out the hole, here's my card. Come on, we're going to sue whoever made this hole. The man was still in the hole. The man's in the hole, and the doctor walks by the hole and says to the man in the hole, he says, when you get out the hole, come to my office, and we're going to make sure that your body is okay, because that's a deep fall. Here's my card. Threw it down, and the doctor kept walking. Man's in the hole, he's been in the hole, and the hole is deep, but his friend walks by the hole and says to his friend, hey, bud, what you doing in the hole? He said, I fell in the hole. The friend looks down in the hole, and the friend jumps down in the hole with the man, and the man looks at his friend and says, now we're both in the hole. And the friend says to the man, yeah, we're both in the hole, but here's the thing, I've been in this hole before, and I know how to get out. Let's take a break. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Let's do some more headlines. So, did you guys know that Canada recently agreed to pay $31.5 billion with a B, to indigenous families for taking their children and putting their children into the child welfare system in Canada? So the government literally took away the children of indigenous people for no reason at all, and had to admit that they confiscated and separated families for no reason, and recently agreed to pay $31.5 billion to compensate the family and the children for what they did. Can I just ask a simple question? What kind of evil do you have to be to separate kids from their families and their parents for no reason at all? Like, what level of mendacity do you have to participate in to come up with that policy? To the degree that you have to now pay $31 billion to compensate for what you did. I mean, at what point does your humanity say to you, we shouldn't do this to these kids? These are kids, and we should not do this to children. There's a certain code that ought to rise up in you when you are a human being in touch with your humanity. And that code is, we shall not do harmful things to children. But the government of Canada, the official policy was to separate indigenous children from their families. And here's truthfully, here's what I think about this. This is from the heart. Quite frankly, they should have got more money. Okay? They should have got more money, and they should have gotten the city. They should have gotten Toronto. They should have gotten, no, I'm serious, they should have gotten $800 billion, and they should have gotten the city of Toronto. You know why I say that? Because sometimes pain is the only thing and the only reason, rather, why people learn the lessons they need to learn. Sometimes pain is the only thing that gets people clear and gives them clarity to not do something again. $31 billion is not enough. The government of Canada should have paid these families, these indigenous children, $800 billion and gave them the city of Toronto. I bet you all the money in my pocket against all the money in your pocket that if Canada had to give them $800 billion and the city of Toronto, this would never happen again. Canada would never do this again because they would have learned their lesson. Here's your lesson. Don't be so quick to help people avoid pain. Because sometimes blessings come in the form of consequences. Sometimes growth comes in the form of having to deal with something that, you know, this is what you did. This is what you did. Oh, Canada. You know what I'm saying? Oh, but before you get all high-minded in this country, let's be clear that the very same thing happened to Latinx children crossing the border in America under the administration of Donald Trump. The very same thing happened. Children separated from their parents, and many of them have never completely been reunited with their families. I wonder how much they should sue for. I wonder what city we should give them. What city? 2-3 is a Latinx brother. What city y'all want? LA. Imagine if America had to give every Latinx citizen in the country $1 billion. And the city of LA. They're like, hey, y'all take it. I promise you, America would never institute a policy like that again. Maybe that's what's wrong with this country. Consequences aren't hard enough. Let me move on. So, let's do, listen, over the course of the week, I see some amazing things. I'm able to view people doing extraordinary, marvelous, wonderful, interesting things. And on Fridays, I get to share some of that with you. So these are some of the most interesting things I've seen all week. I was minding my own business the other day, and I saw a headline where this guy named Muhammad Malik, a 21-year-old bachelor, put up a billboard in London, that guy right there, asking women to save him from an arranged marriage. And he had his website for people to be able to contact him. You know, that's the billboard. That's a real thing, people. He really put this up in London, asking people to save him from an arranged marriage. And he wanted all his potential wives, the prospects, to hit him up. I'm not quite sure putting up a billboard is any better than an arranged marriage, since you don't know exactly who is going to answer who's going to call. I'm not sure if this is the appropriate dating strategy that you should follow. I'm not sure that anybody operating with that kind of desperation is even ready to be in a relationship. But my advice to everybody, this is some free dating advice, don't ever be so desperate that you put up a billboard like that. Don't do that, okay? Don't do that, because you never know who you're going to attract. You know what I'm saying? You got to be more judicious, more discerning about who you let in. Don't be so desperate that you just open the gates up for anybody. And here's the other thing. Here's what I would say to Muhammad Malik, Mr. Malik. Here's what I would say to him. I don't know him, but if he was here, I would say this. Hey, sir, if you don't want to be in an arranged marriage, then guess what? Don't be in one. You don't want to do it, don't do it. And you say, oh, Dr. Sean, it's not that easy. I know it's not that easy, but neither is marriage. So if you're not ready to stand up to your parents about being in an arranged marriage, you're probably not ready to be married, because that ain't easy either. You don't want to be in an arranged marriage, don't be in an arranged marriage. Instead of accepting attention from everybody, all of us should learn how to give ourselves sufficient attention until the person who deserves us comes along. Learn how to tell people no, because I'm not being in an arranged marriage. You know what I'm saying to you? That would be a disaster. Oh my God. Anyway, here's the next great thing that I saw. So I was minding my own business and I saw this story about Brian Hamilton. He's an assistant equipment manager for the National Hockey League. And during one of the games, that woman right there, Nada Pavucci, I got to get the name right, Nada Pavucci, that's who he's standing next to. He was working one of the games, and Nada saw a mold on the back of his head, and she didn't want to make a big deal about it, and she wrote on her iPhone in big letters, I guess it's some app, and she put it up to the screen, and what the message said was, you should get the mold on your neck checked out. It might be cancerous. Please go to a doctor. And guess what happened? No, he didn't go right away, because you know how men are. We don't go to the doctor. He waited a few days, and then he went 2-3, and found out that the mole was cancerous. And he credits Nada for saving his life, because quite frankly she did. And the NHL gave Nada a medical school scholarship, which I think is just absolutely amazing. I mean, you just, I'm gonna take a break, relax. But you never know. You never know, who God's going to send to save your life. You never know who's going to show up to transform you and make your situation better. I mean, there are too many people who are busy chasing rainbows and trying to catch raindrops in their mouths that we miss what life is saying. Here's my advice. Life is always trying to tell you something, and you should probably listen, because first it whispers, then it yells, then it sends you an iPhone message, and then it slaps you in the face. Let's take a break. Think about that. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. So, how about we do some Ask Dr. Sean, people? You guys always send me amazing videos. I like giving advice, not just because I'm good at it, but because, it's my little way of making a contribution into people's lives. I like to give and to help. And you guys always send me amazing questions, and tonight is no different. So let's take a look at this video. All right, I couldn't hear that. Could y'all hear that? I couldn't hear that. So let's do a written question. Someone DM me, and we'll see if we can get that sound fixed for later on. All right, here's someone DM me this question. I made a vow that this new year was going to be my year. I decided to travel more and spend more time with my family and friends, and finally make time for a love life. Bravo on that. With COVID numbers on the rise, my first vacation for the year was canceled. How do I not let the pandemic bring me down? Great question. I got a great answer for you. So before you decide to spend more time with your family, and before you decide to travel around the world, and before you decide to find somebody to love and to love you, you might want to decide to keep your hope and your optimism alive no matter what happens. Okay? So before you do those other things, my advice to you is to have a certain commitment about your joy and your capacity to stay joyful in spite of it all. That should be the one thing that you do before anything else. You follow me? Because plans are always going to change, friends are always going to get sometimey, situations are always going to move, and God only knows when COVID is going to end, because you people won't get vaccinated. So we don't know when that's going to be over. But when your commitment is to your joy, you ain't got to travel. You ain't even got to be with friends. You ain't even got to see family. And quite frankly, you don't even have to be in a relationship, because you can find the substance and the content of your joy in places where nobody abides but you. You see, it's learning how to lean with it, how to rock with it, how to understand that the plans that we make are always provisional. Even without COVID, plans are provisional. The joy that we have in life should not come from our plans, but from the joy we bring to the experiences that we want to do because we already possess it before we left the house. I want you to find joy and happiness in your kitchen, in your living room, in your bathroom. I want you to find it right where you are and not chase after friendship or new adventures or love in order to give you fulfillment. I want you to do all those things, you know what I'm saying? But I don't want you to be crushed by the possibility that all the things you want to do may not be all the things that happen to get done. Because if you do none of those things, I want you to still feel like this is a year for you to be proud of. Here's the short answer, if you ain't quite figured it out. I want the thing that you work on more than anything else to make this your year is for you to show up in your life, in your journey, in your story, and in your experience in such a way that you don't need anything to work out necessarily beyond the fact that you woke up this morning, and you're healthy, not homeless, not hungry, not starving, I want that to give you as much joy as climbing Mount Everest. I want the fact that you are healthy and sane and that you are beautiful and that you are great and that you are worthy. I want that to give you as much joy as going out with your friends and shaking your tail feather. Because you don't know what's going to happen. We can't control tomorrow. That's not how it works. We don't get to decide what life is going to do to change our plans. But here's what we do get to decide. We do get to decide how we respond to what happens. So if this is going to be your year, come on, let's do the work. Then let's make it your year. You can't travel with Omicron and all that going crazy, right? And you can't see your family, and you can't, maybe I don't know where you live, depending on where you are, maybe you can't go out to the club like you want to. Okay, but let's do the work. This can still be your year. Because making it your year isn't about, this isn't the 6th grade where the best part of our day is recess. That's not what this is. This is life. And the beauty of it is learning how to shift and adjust and change and move and lean and rock, and to never lose your capacity to see the good in it all. So here's your homework. I don't usually give homework in this, but here's your homework. Can you see the good in the plans that got changed? Because if you can see the good in what's going on right now, then I think you're right. This might be the greatest year of your life. This might be your year. But if you can't see the good because something went wrong, or if you can't see the good because something didn't work out, if you can't see the good because your plans got changed, then you may not be ready for the year that you prayed for. Because if you get everything that you prayed for and go as high as you want to go, believe me, more money, more problems. Bright light comes with hot heat. More attention comes with more haters. More fun, more bills. You hear what I'm saying to you? As my mama would say, you hear what I'm saying unto you? Hear me, beloved? Can you see the good? Find the good. Plant your flag on the good that you siphon, that you pull out of the difficulties and the complexity that now presents itself to you. So your plans got changed. You can't travel, you can't go to the club, and you might not see your family. Now what are you going to do? Don't sulk. Don't fall apart. Don't be angry. That ain't the response that I'm looking for. I need you to lift your head back up. I need you to square your shoulders and wipe them tears out of your eyes and stop feeling sorry for yourself. I need you to remember. I need you to remember that you are all the good you need, and that ultimately the real adventure is not in Paris. It's not in South Africa. The real adventure is in the deep recesses and discoveries of your heart and your mind. Take a trip down there and then come back and tell me what you find. That's where the good is, by the way. Let's take a break, people. I'm having a good time. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. I want to do some Ask Dr. Sean, but before we do that, let's stop for a second and just give honor for the life of the great Sidney Poitier, who passed away today at the age of 94. And Mr. Poitier was a remarkable, remarkable achievement of American arts and letters. He is one of those rare American institutions and personality that black people absolutely love and white people absolutely respected. You know what I'm saying? And he never had to compromise who he was and what he stood for and where he came from in order to reach acclaim and have achievement. He was able to be rooted in his community and overwhelmed members of other tribes with the power of his capacity, his gifts, and his life. And today we remember him. We thank him for all the doors he knocked down and all the trails that he blazed. And we release him to be an ancestor. We release him to watch over us and to have the peace and the joy that he has earned. 94 years old is a great run. And a lot of people today are remembering him. And I did not want us to take another step without giving the Creator thanks for the life and the witness of this dear blessed man. I actually had the privilege of meeting him once. I know you guys think I meet everybody, but I really met him once. It wasn't a long conversation. It was actually very short. He was at a gala that I was at, and we just briefly met. And the dignity, and the comportment, and the what do you call it when you the charm, he had all of it. When I met him, I could see why so many people love and honor him the way that they do. So we honor the life of the great Sidney Poitier. All right, let's do some more Ask Dr. Sean. Someone emailed me this question in 2022. I want to live a more positive life. I heard that affirmations are a good way to start your day, but I don't know what to say. What are some affirmations that I can say every morning to manifest the joy I want to bring into my life? All right, well, thank you for that question. I have a strange answer for you. It's not one that you expect. This is going to shock and amaze you, 2-3. But I can't really give you affirmations. I know. Here's why, though. Because I don't know what your soul needs to hear. I don't know what your soul is yearning to be in the presence of. Only you know that. I know what affirmations I need to hear. I know what affirmations that speak to me. But those things that speak to me may not speak to you. So before we seek out whatever the content of the affirmation may be, you mentioned joy, but what else do you need to hear? To make 2022 the year where you rise, where you shine, where you overcome the devilties and the difficulties of life, to make 2022 that year, I need to know what you yearn to accomplish, what you are yearning to manifest. You mentioned joy, but what else? Because every day ain't going to be joyful. You know what I'm saying? You mentioned joy. What else? What else are you seeking to sort of have and bear witness to? And so whatever that is, that's what you need to say. And it doesn't necessarily have to be all special and, codified and in the neat sort of soundbite packaging kind of way. And that's the world that we live in. But you can simply get up in your mirror every day or in the middle of your bed every day and simply say, I shall not die, but I will live today. And you've affirmed. You can simply stand in the middle of your house and declare that today I will not hand my joy over to anybody. And you've affirmed. You've declared, decreed, and affirmed. You see what I'm saying? You see, I think people think that affirmations have to be deep and, soundbitey and maybe even poetic. No. If you stand in your shower and just declare peace and love and power and grace, you've done enough. You've taken your words and the intentions of your heart and you've declared them out into the space in which you live and thrive and experience your life. And you pray that those words, those intentions will go before you and make crooked places straight. My advice to you is don't be all complicated and all that. Just be real simple and be real in touch with who you are and what your soul is yearning to hear. Because only you know what will move you. I can give you some Maya Angelou. I can give you some Toni Morrison. I can give you some Friedrich Nietzsche. You know what I'm saying? Although Nietzsche was crazy. I shouldn't have linked Nietzsche with Morrison and Maya Angelou. Forgive me, ancestors, for doing that. But you get the point I'm making, right? It's not the quote. It's not the quote. And it's not who says the quote. Ultimately, what makes it work is how you have prepared the ground of your heart to receive what you're saying. Because I can give you the greatest affirmation in the history of the world. And if you don't believe it, and if you're not prepared to receive it, then I've wasted my words. So before you figure out what words to string together and what sentences you should reach and pull from, get your soul and your heart ready to receive it. And make sure you are believing the affirmative process. Because if you don't believe in affirmations, then it makes no sense to sort of say them. You're just doing something because, that's what people do. But I dare you to believe that your life becomes your words. I dare you to believe that the words of your heart and the meditations of your heart and the intentions of your mind, that they have the power to create a kind of life that you truly and profoundly deserve. I dare you to believe that. That's where I want you to focus. You can get affirmation from Google. You know what I'm saying? You go to YouTube and you can get an hour of affirmations. That's easy. But after you hear them, will you believe them? And after you believe them, will you do something about them? Are you prepared to allow what you have heard and received from someone else to become the basis of the life that you want? Listen, everybody, thank you for tuning in. I enjoy when we get together. I absolutely love it. Thank you for the time that you give me. Thank you for letting me into your hearts and your life. I'll see you next week, won't I? Y'all be good to each other. And I promise you, we're going to have another great week together, all right? I love you. How about that?